Hey guys, OGalbina here, bringing you guys our BBL Wi-Fi Week 2 battle against Gravy and his Vancouver Titans. Now Jack, Gravy, I never know which one to call him because he always has both in like Discord servers, so I always do both in videos. But Jack is a very solid player. He is the most recent BBR champion. He makes finals in copious amounts of leagues. I don't remember if he's won any since BBR, but regardless, he makes it to the dance very often. He's a very solid player, for sure a force to be reckoned with. I don't think I've played Jack on Wi-Fi since Gen 7 and like IBL or something like that. I don't think we've gotten the pleasure of playing him in BBR yet, so gonna be pretty cool to go up against him here. He's a very solid player, like I said, and he's got a very scary team. It's a team that a lot of people discounted on the draft analysis and like post-draft peers, even including myself to an extent. But after building for this team, it's a lot scarier than I think a lot of people give it credit for. So we're gonna see what we can do against Mr. Jack, and hopefully we can snag a W versus him. We lost week 1 to Gladeite. If you haven't seen that one, definitely go check it out. Still a very good game. But we lost to Gladeite week 1, and it's kind of time to bounce back. Hopefully, I think we have the team to do it. But this offense, man, it's very scary. Let's go and jump into the team builder, though. If you haven't, drop a like on the video. I'd appreciate it. Sub if you're new, and there will be a timestamp on the screen for if you guys want to jump ahead to the battle and when that starts and all that jazz, as well as being a timestamp in the description, as well as on the screen and all that stuff. So let's go and jump into it. Our team is at the top of the screen if you forgot, and it consists of Ho-Oh, Zygarde 50%, Slowbro, Neolego, Azelf, Steelix, Licky, Comfey, Tyranitar, Decidueye, I almost called Excadrill, Drillbur, and Galarian Meowth, the man, the myth, legend himself. While Gray's team is at the bottom of the screen, and it consists of Naganadel, Cinderace with Libero, so, ooh, scary, Landorus, Tapu Lele, Swampert, Corviknight, Lantern, Heracross, Bisharp, Greedent, and Articuno Galar form. Now, biggest threats to me, a lot of this offense. We'll kind of just go through it one by one. The Naganadel absolutely rips me. It's going to be very difficult for my team to deal with, just because of the sense that it can U-turn, chip down that tar very easily, and with hazards up, with obviously the rocks coming from either Pert, Bisharp, or Landorus, so plenty of rocks options, as well as potentially spikes in that Heracross. It's going to be very difficult for me to kind of check that over the long term of a game, like a Scarf or Spec Set. It does go pretty crazy. You can chip me down. I can't Pursuit Trap it or anything like that, so that's going to be very annoying to deal with. Cinderace, I think I do deal with pretty well. I don't think Cinderace will come between Ho-Oh and Zygarde and Slowbro. I really don't think it'll come in this game. It could, in the sense that it at least forces those switches and gives him advantageous positionings otherwise, but I really don't think it will. Landorus, I don't have great switch-ins to Landorus overall. It's pretty much just my Slowbro, and Slowbro can get worn down, again, by those hazards I was talking about, by my own sand, realistically, and a lot of things like that, so we have to be careful about that. Lele, another one I don't have great switch-ins for. I think like Life Orb Lele or even Specs Lele is very difficult for me to switch into. I'm more scared of Life Orb because I think I can pivot around it a little bit easier if it is like Specs or Choiced in any way, but regardless, it's scary nonetheless. Swampert, very annoying for my team to break. One of the few things stopping us from sweeping their Zygarde, so that's going to be kind of one of the main goals with this team is positioning Zygarde for a win, and Pert is one of the things stopping that, so we'll have to be careful. Corviknight's just a good catch-all check to a lot of the passive things on my team. Honestly, Bulk Up does really well in this game. If you can eliminate Ho-Oh, it can honestly go absolutely crazy, and even then it can PP stall us with a Bulk up, so it kind of forces our hand and not going physical Ho-Oh once again. Lantern, kind of man this game, but I guess it could come as like a soft Ho-Oh check, but doesn't want to take Earthquakes or anything like that. Heracross, very scary for me to deal with. I'm one stonage away from losing to Heracross pretty much immediately. I lose to the move Mega Horn as soon as my Ho-Oh goes down. So Scarf is a very viable ring in this matchup. Bisharp, also pretty solid in this game. I don't have great switch-ins to its stabs plus low kick, though it's going to have a hard time SDing and then having stabs, sucker, and low kick. It has pretty bad form Moonsault Syndrome, so I think it'll probably forego low kick for the Steelix, obviously, to get that stabs plus sucker, and then either Stealth Rock if he doesn't have rocks on anything else, or Swords Dance to potentially win. Greedent, I'm actually pretty scared of Greedent. I kind of had to prep for it pretty hard in the sense that if it starts stockpiling up and it's a rest variant, I don't deal with it super well. So you'll see we have a couple months on our team that kind of semi-stop it and deal with that if that ends up coming. And then Articuno Galar, I'm not super worried about, to be completely honest. I think I have a lot for it, and I don't think it ever really comes. But Let's go ahead and jump into our first member finally, which is going to be Ho-Oh. Rocking out with the heavy-duty boots, Regenerator's ability, Flamethrower, Scorching Sands, Recover, and Giga Drain. EVs wise, we got 236 HP, 52 special attack, and then 228 speed with a... Oh, goodness, I didn't put the plus. I think we were timid on this thing. We were with a timid nature. Now, EVs wise, we have enough speed for Heracross. We 2-hit KO, max special defense Corvi after leftovers and rocks. And then we have the rest in HP. Just a great catch-all check to a lot of things. We check the Naganadel if it's not nasty apply. We check the Cinderace. We check like a choice locked. Excuse me. We check a choice locked, Landers. Depending on when it clicks. Same thing with the Heracross. We also check the Lele if it's not Life Orb, in all honesty. Because between this and T-Tar, we should be able to deal with it pretty darn well. And yeah, just a very solid catch-all check to a lot of the Pokemon on this team. And yeah, just going to help us slow down the offensive onslaught that he has. Next up, we have Zygarde rocking off the leftovers. Aura Break is its ability, 1000 Arrows, Dragon Dance, Toxic, and Haze. EVs wise, he got 124 HP, 52 attack, 20 defense, 148 special defense, and 164 speed with an impish nature. Yes, that is Dragon Dance, Haze, Zygarde. I understand those moves don't work together, but hear me out. I'm really scared of Greedent, and I don't want it to be able to set up a bunch of stockpiles on me for free, or to be Swords Dance, like a fat Swords Dance variant, and me not be able to deal with it. So we have Haze on it. We have Toxic to catch things that we just don't initially break, things like Swampert, especially things like Landers, if it's a fat Landers. And then honestly, Dragon Dance plus 1000 Arrows can win this game later on. I don't really see a point in coiling. I think it's always better in our interest just to Dragon Dance out, be faster than things, and hit them with big 1000 Arrows. This checks the Cinderace as well if that ends up wanting to come very easily. We check pretty defensive Landers as well, which is very nice. We check Corviknight. We check Bisharp. Bunch of things like that. EVs wise, what are we rocking out with our Zygarde? Let me double check. We are not 2-hit KO by Adamant Heracross close combat. Even though we don't do much back, it's nice to have something that takes 2 hits. We have enough speed for Hera, Creeping, Decidueye. We 2-hit KO Lele after lefties and rocks, and then we do the rest in our Spadef, just take the Spadef hits as well as possible. Next up, we have Slowbro rocking out with Regenerator, Rocky Helmet as item, Scald, Teleport, Psychic, Slack Off. We are max Fizz Def. Don't really need to explain the EVs. This is going to be our Cinderace pivot. This is going to be our Landers pivot. It's going to be a Swampert pivot. That's going to be potentially a Bisharp pivot. And we can always live a non-guts hit from the Heracross pretty darn easily. And I will probably take that trade 9 times out of 10, depending on what left is rest. What else is left? Goodness, English. So yeah, this is a very self-explanatory one. We don't need to sit on this Slowbro for too long. It just checks a good chunk of his physical offense, minus the Bisharp. And even then, if it's not like Life or Bisharp or like some kind of boosting item, after we lose our item, it doesn't do a chaos with knockoff. So we could potentially beat that thing 1v1. I think he has to respect the potential body press bring from our end. So that's obviously, pretty nice to have as well. Next up, we have Assault Vest Tyranitar. Sandstream is its ability. Dark Pulse, Earth Power, Flamethrower, and Ice Beam. EVs wise, we got max HP, 4 defense, 140 special attack, 12 Spadef, and 100 speed with a modest nature. Yes, modest Tyranitar. I figured a special attacking Tyranitar would be best in this matchup. EVs wise, we have enough speed for Corviknight plus a few. We 2-hit KO Fizdef Corvi after rocks with Flamethrower, and then we have the rest in our HP plus Spadef just to take those special hits as well as possible. It's a great Naganadel check. And honestly, is a decent Tapu Lele check as well, which is very nice. We check the Lantern very well. And the Articuno we hardball. And honestly, it puts on a good amount of offensive pressure. As you've kind of noticed, our team is very fat and defensive, and it doesn't really change from here with the last 2 members. So realistically, this is probably my best breaker in this matchup. It isn't the best, but honestly, its coverage does really, really well in this matchup. Dark Pulse or Earth Power for both Cinderace and the Naganadel switching in. Obviously, Naganadel doesn't really deal with us too well, so probably won't be switching in. But Cinderace, if it for some reason wants to come in super aggressive, we hit it very hard, so it just doesn't switch in on us. We have Ice Beam for the Landers. Dark Pulse chunks the Lele. Dark Pulse starts kind of chipping down the Swampert to where we can move with Zygarde, which is, again, kind of the end goal, which is awesome. Flamethrower hits the Corviknight as well as the Heracross. We have Earth Power for the Lantern. We have Flamethrower and Earth Power for the Bisharp, probably Flamethrower, so we don't accidentally Spadef drop it. And then Greedent, we're kind of walled by because it's Greedent, but if it's not Rest, we can chip it down, potentially. And then Articuno, we just wall and kick Dark Pulse. So, honestly, I think this T-Tar is really solid offensively in this matchup. It's not going to, like, break holes and, Gray's gonna go, oh no, I have no switch into this special assault vest Tyranitar. But it puts on a good amount of offensive pressure to where he at least has to think, and it realistically should force a lot of chip on that Swampert, which is really nice. Gives us that Naganadel check and soft checks the Lele as well, depending on, you know, what its set is and stuff like that, especially if it's choiced. Next up, we have Spadef Licky rocking out with Oblivious as its ability, Body Slam, Wish Protect, and Heal Bell. Heavy Duty Boost is an item. We're Max Spadef. Another very self-explanatory set. The next two EVs are very, very explanatory. Honestly, 3 out of the 6 mons on this team are very, very self-explanatory. This thing soft checks Naga. It soft checks the Lele especially, which is basically what it's here for. Completely, in all honesty. It checks the Lantern. It checks the Articuno to an extent. And it's literally here to check the Lele, pass wishes out into things like T-Tar and Ho-Oh and Zygarde and things like that. And help us kind of outlast our opponent. We have Heal Bell just so we're not, you know, dealing with Skull Burdens and Toxics and things like that all game, which is obviously very, very nice as well. So I really do think that Licky is just kind of a very important centerpiece to this team. Now, if we can get rid of Lele, it's pretty darn expendable, but it's realistically kind of needed for that Lele because we can really, really struggle with it otherwise. And honestly, we still do struggle with it with Licky. It's not the best check. It's realistically the best check if it's like Choice or something like that, and we can realistically just use it as a pivot. Used to Wish and Heal Bell and stuff like that as well. So yeah, that's gonna be Licky. And then lastly, we have Fizz Def Steelix rocking out with Sturdy. Leftovers is his item. Earthquake Roar, Stealth Rock, and Heavy Slam. We are Max Fizz Def because fuck Bisharp. It is our best rocker in this game, in my opinion. Because I don't think Nihi is all too great, in all honesty. Although Nihi isn't super bad. Let's send a free Bisharp, though, which is scary. And if I don't bring Steelix, I don't have Bisharp counterplay. So I figured that it was my best rocker in that sense as well. We can Earthquake that thing. We can Roar this team around, get some good residual between rocks and sand and things like that. And then Heavy Slam's just a way of nuking. Oh, excuse me. The Tapu Lele, which again is very, very important. And yeah, we can roar things around. It stops the Greedent from setting up a bunch. It stops the Corviknight from setting up a bunch, and all that good stuff as well. So yeah, a bit of a long team builder. I apologize. Felt like it was kind of needed. Those pretty interesting matchup for us. I think it's going to be very tough for us to not get overwhelmed offensively, but I think we got the squad to do it. And yeah, with that being said, let's jump right into the battle. Alrighty guys, here we are with the battle. As you can see, this is unfortunately a post-com, and that is due to the fact of me being an absolute idiot and deleting my footage a couple nights ago when I was cleaning out my computer. Didn't realize I did so until last night when I went to go edit it. So big shouts to Gray for passing me his side of the battle. So we're gonna be post-comming from his perspective, not from his perspective, just like from his side of the field. We'll still be talking about why I made my plays and stuff like that. It'll just be from more of an analytical post-com type of fashion. So again, big shouts to him for that. Let me know if you guys enjoy this kind of post-com type style of narrating. I used to do this back in the day when I first started uploading, when I didn't have a cap card, and I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people don't enjoy post-coms, but I like being able to pause and be analytical and stuff like that. So let me know what you think if you'd prefer this more. Yeah, with that being said, let's go and jump into it. We see the 6 that Gray elected to bring. He went with the Swampert, the Tapu Lele, the Naganadel, the Bisharp, the Landorus, and the Heracross. He's rocking out with the quadruple choice items. He's Expert Belt Swampert, 4 attacks offensive, which we'll see in the game. Definitely catches me off guard. He's not as bulky as I thought he was going to be. And then he's an Aquaberry Bisharp, likely with Stone Edge. Well, with Stone Edge, you'll see, for the Ho-Oh, which again, very good prep. Definitely makes sense. Biggest stretch to me is honestly going to be all these choice mons. Lele, if it clicks the right button, can claim pretty much 2-hit KO everything on my team. And again, they'll get out of hand fast once we lose our T-Tar, and it can U-turn and chip us down, and hazards, rocks and spikes and stuff like that could be scary. Then we have obviously the Landorus, which is probably the biggest threat to me. I don't have great switches to that thing. My entire team gets 2-hit KO'd because I don't have a good ground resist. Even Decidueye being my ground resist on my bench isn't a great choice band Landorus switching. And my Ho-Oh is 1 Stone Edge away from just dying. And if he makes that call once, you know, we're kind of in a really bad spot against that Landorus. And then it's kind of the same thing with that Heracross. If he makes that call once on our Ho-Oh and Stone Edges us and kills us, we kind of lose to Heracross Mega Horn just immediately, because I don't expect Steelix to stick around very often. And then if it's like Moxie Scarf, or if it's even just like, you know, Swords Dance or something like that, it kind of just beats our entire team, just off the rip. So we're going to have to play very carefully around those two specifically at the bottom. Regardless, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit just to the lead matchup, and then we'll press play here. I'm going to lead off with my Slowbro. The reason I lead off with Slowbro is because it gives me the best possible lead versus a Heracross, which is super stupid, but I take a Scarf Megahorn very easily, and I can Psychic it back, get off ton of crucial damage, and then kind of deal with it accordingly, and be in a pretty good spot. I knew I could live a hit from this Bisharp as well, so I'm going to stay in and Scald it. I expect him potentially, one, definitely not be Banded, which is the only way he can kill me, and two, potentially Scout Fresh, being Colbur Berry, Body Press, and being able to just take this thing out, or just Body Press in general. But unfortunately, he's going to stay in. It's fine. We lose our helmet, but now we honestly check this thing pretty well, being that's not a boosting item. And then we're going to be able to Scald, not get the burn, but get a ton of damage off. I am going to save my Slowbro right here, just because I feel like it obviously has a ton of defensive utility left in this game, and not making us lose to close combat immediately. Checking the Landorus, which I don't know is banded yet, obviously, but checking a regular Landorus. So I can go into my Steelix, which was kind of designed to check this thing. He makes a good middle ground play in low kicks, but you see that is not a 2-hit KO after this. So I can pretty freely get up my rocks. He can knock me off, he can low kick me. Nothing he does is going to 2-hit KO me, and getting up these rocks is so unbelievably important for my team. His only defogger is going to be Landorus, and I don't think he's going to be defog Landorus in this matchup. And obviously, see, he didn't bring it, so I can get up my rocks pretty much for free. Out comes a Swampert, and the only bad thing about letting my Slowbro get knocked off was actually the fact that I lost my helmet, because I could really punish this thing going for flip turns and things like that pretty darn easily. So I'm going to switch out my Steelix. No reason to sack it off just yet. And yeah, we're going to watch him go for a flip turn, not get punished. Now, if this thing still had to worry about taking that helmet chip, it either changes how Jack plays that turn, and maybe he's more likely to Earthquake, or I get a ton of chip off, which is, again, really good for Zygarde, and that's the end game plan, is winning with Zygarde. So that's kind of the end game goal here, as out comes the Landorus on the Slowbro. And this initially confused me, because in my head, I'm like, I absolutely chew anything this one wants to go for. I can just Scald. And I can just slack off and get healthy again, and kind of just scout and see what this thing wants to do. If it's Swords Dance, it's a level +2 hit. Well, then he U-turns, and we see I live pretty much guaranteed, I think, as well. I didn't look at the calc in the game because I didn't expect Choice Band Landorus, but I live, but that is a guaranteed Choice Band, and I about had an accident. I was so terrified of that thing once I saw that. Choice Band Landorus puts on so much offensive pressure on my team, and again, it is one Stone Edge away from literally killing my entire team with Earthquake later on. So again, we have to be very careful. Out comes the Bisharp, gonna save my Slowbro. As he goes for his rocks, I go back out into my Steelix, as it's literally only here for the Bisharp. It's probably the only thing it helps with. Other than that, like maybe like Scarf Lele, I guess, but even then Lele can push through me pretty easy, because we're Fizz Def Steelix and not Spud Def. So right here, I am just going to go for an Earthquake. Even if he wants to save this, I feel like his most likely pivot is into it is Swampert and not the Landorus, so I can get a big chunk off on that thing and at least, you know, kind of chip it down. We saw that it wasn't leftovers earlier, so it not being leftovers really helped in kind of lowering its longevity at the very least, which again is very, very nice. As right here, he is going to go out into, I believe, the Landorus, correct? Yeah, he goes out into Landorus, which again definitely makes sense. I'm pretty okay with sacking this thing off at this point, just because of the fact that I don't switch into Landorus. It clicks Stone Edge here, I'm in an awful spot. And, you know, if I somehow live a hit that he goes for, I can just go for a Roar. You know, be able to phase him out if he wants to go for a U-turn and try and grab momentum on me switching. I don't think you need to go for U-turn. I really don't switch in. And the moment I lose Ho-Oh, I think I just lose the game. So I have to be very careful with this Ho-Oh. So out comes the Pert. You're going to take rocks, and it's going to take a little bit more chip. We drag out the Naganadel, which again, very, very nice. Again, I'm okay with sacking this thing off. I don't want to give him more momentum with a U-turn right here into my Tar, because then I take U-turn plus rocks, and it's just really not good positioning for me overall. So I am going to let this thing go down to the very obvious Fire Blast. But again, I really don't think I could have allowed him, I guess, to U-turn for free on me there. I think that would have been a very bad play on my end. So down goes my, what do you call it, my Steelix, and I believe it showed right here. But let's look at the Beast Boost. I believe it was Special Attack Boosting, which told me that this was indeed a modest Naganadel, which is, again, very good information to know, just via my calcs and stuff like that, just how Naganadel stats work out. You can kind of tell what its highest stat is and what its, obviously by what it's boosting, and what its highest stat is kind of dependent on its nature, a lot of the time at the very least. So right here, I get to go out into Tyranitar. I'm actually going to throw off an Ice Beam. I expect Swampert to be the pivot, but this catches a really, really aggressive Landorus switch in, and really punishes it, and that would be absolutely amazing for me. So I am going to get off a big Ice Beam here, showing that Pert is pretty darn offensive, which is, again, very interesting to note. It's definitely not like Spadef Pert or anything like that. and we're able to get off a good chunk with it, and it's not leftover, so again, it's getting worn down throughout the course of this game. I'm gonna go out into Slowbro. Again, I don't lose anything by going into it. Yeah, this thing can Toxic me or something like that, but I believe we have Heal Bell and Lucky this week, unless I'm absolutely tripping. We'll be able to absolutely chew that off. This turn, I can throw off a free Scald. If he wants to stay in and like Earthquake me again, that's fine. I can regen it off. And I realistically just want to get Chip on this pert. If I can burn it, if I can chip it down, even just getting the Scald off in general, being that he's pretty darn offensive, opposed to like a Spadef pert, would be amazing. As out comes a Lele, and I'm okay with this too, because you're going to see, it's going to take Rocks here. It's going to take a Scald. Right? And Scald has a 30% chance to burn, which we get, so it takes burn damage, and then it takes sand damage as well, which realistically did almost as much as Scald, all of the passive damage we did there. So what this team was really meant to do was slowly chip down everything and then get everything into range of Zygarde. As I am going to save my Brody here, I'm going to go Licky. I can kind of scout and see these things. Item, the only way to it kills me is with a Specs Psychic move or like a hard Focus Blast, which I think would be a crazy play. We're going to see that is indeed Specs Moonblast. So this turn, I'm actually going to double out into my Ho-Oh, just because I know I can take that Specs Moonblast very well. And Ho-Oh puts on a lot of offensive pressure in this game as well, too. He doesn't have great switch-ins to, you know, Flamethrower, Giga Drain, plus Scorching Sands. I mean, Scorching Sands not for much other than the Ganondorf, but Flying Move would obviously do a lot to that thing as well. And it's just not a great switch-in, and I have plenty of ways of dealing with that thing at this point. So he's going to drop another Moonblast. Thankfully, we don't get the the special attack drop, which is honestly the most important thing in that instance, because we want to put on a good offensive pressure. And right here, the only pivot out that Gray really has is going to be, and let me make sure it's muted, is going to be into that Swampert, and I can 2-KO that thing with Flamethrower and Giga Drain. Even if it is Rindo, with how offensive this thing seems, I feel pretty confident going for a Giga Drain and knocking it out still. So we are going to be able to knock it out. Gray told me after the game he actually did not know Ho-Oh got Giga Drain, so it's cool to see the tech work out a little bit in our favor, which is pretty cool. And then out comes the Landorus, and this puts us in a bad spot. I have to switch here. He can obviously Stone Edge and do a lot of damage to something, or he can just knock off, which he's actually going to elect to click here, which also makes a lot of sense. I'm just going to sack off my Licky. The Lele is already chipped enough to where I don't feel super uncomfortable checking it with things like Ho-Oh plus Tyranitar, and Licky is more passive than it is good in this game. As you can see, we're just going to raw die to that knockoff from Landorus, which is pretty darn funny. Not even stab. It's going to knock us off. It's going to knock us out. And down goes Licky, but again, probably by far the least useful member on our team. Least useful member we brought all week, honestly. It was a little too passive for this matchup, especially with the offensive team that Gray ended up bringing, which again is very scary, but we can deal with it. Out comes Oboe, which is going to be our Tyranitar, and from here, I'm actually going to make a play and go for Flamethrower. The reason I go for Flamethrower is because I don't think the Naganadel comes out, because I checked the Naganadel. I could just Ice Beam it or Earth Power it after. I don't think this Lander stays in because it's locked into knockoff. We know it's banded. And if I can either kill the Lele with Flamethrower, which again, nice, or get a ton of chip off on this Heracross, I'm in a phenomenal spot to win with the Zygarde in the end game, because this is one of the few Pokemon that actually could deal with arrows on his team. So we do get that play correct. We are going to Flamethrower, bring down to 61, and then 51 after Sand. So this thing is very chipped down. It has 1 or 2 more switch-ins, and then obviously has to account for Sand, things like that. And this is an interesting turn. You see Gray hovering over Stone Edge right here. Thinking about making the play of Stone Edging into my Ho-Oh. He is going to make the play, thinking I would go hard Ho-Oh. I was okay with sacking off my Tyranitar here, just because of how scary this Heracross is versus me. Now, in hindsight, I think it was my play to sack off Slowbro, because it covered close combat. I think I lived 2 Stone Edges, potentially. I don't know after Rocks and Sand, but I think I did. And regardless, I think it was my least useful member by far. Tyranitar still had a ton of utility in checking the Naganadel and things like that, but I did feel comfortable enough with Naganadel checking it with, what do you call it? My Ho-Oh, because we were pretty fat Ho-Oh, and Ho-Oh takes on Choice Scarfed, what do you call it, Naganadel, pretty well. And that's what he was kind of showing. I didn't think he was going to be Nasty Plot U-Turn. He didn't really have enough move slots to run that kind of set. So I was pretty comfortable with trying to take on him that way. As he actually is going to go for the Stone Edge though, and he's going to miss. And this does suck. Well, that wouldn't have killed me. And I was potentially thinking like, if he could totally Stone Edge here and my T-Tar lives, that damage would have still obviously been absolutely amazing for him, because then I wouldn't have been as great of a Naganadel check. I'd probably take 1 more hit, and then the next time I come in, I'd probably die to Draco, which again, not very good for us. But now I'm going to be kind of given the liberty to keep my Tyranitar around in this upcoming end game and things like that. As I'm going to skip forward a little bit, he does go into Landorus right here. And now I feel comfortable sacking my Slowbro. And again, to be completely honest, I think I probably should have sacked my Slowbro in general. that turn before to that Heracross, because I also would have been in a good position just clicking Scald. It realistically kind of claimed a KO at that point. As right here, I am going to switch out because I still take on Naganadel very, very well. And yeah, we can go into our Slowbro and kind of stack it off. It doesn't really have a purpose left in this game other than checking the Landorus, but our Zygarde can actually do that. As this thing takes more and more Rock Chip, we're potentially putting in range of our Zygarde. As out comes Naganadel. This is fine though, because I am going to die to Sand, and it's honestly better for me because now no more Beast Boost, which again, best case scenario for us at the very least. So down goes Slowbro. And then out comes T-Tar, and T-Tar claims a KO. Ice Beam kills something. It either knocks out this Naganadel or puts it in range of Sand and knocks out the Landorus, or it knocks out the Lele at this point. So Gray's kind of put in a tough position where he either has to sack his Landorus, this, or the Lele. I think what he elects to do right here, he's actually going to U-turn out, and I believe he elects to sack the Lele. I think Lele was his best sack. I think his best endgame was with Naganadel plus Landorus. I think him being like super choice on everything made his endgame harder, and I think I still was in a good position to win with the two that he saved. But regardless, I think that Lele was for sure his best sack here. Ice Beam did kill something, pretty much guaranteed. Obviously, you're going to see this Lele come out, it's going to take rocks, and then it's at 19 HP. Like, we obviously knock it out, we knock out the Landers, and then the Naganadel can't do anything to us, so I'm fine with that as well. And this thing died to rocks plus, like, sand and burn, so there's realistically no reason to keep it. As out comes the Landers right here. I'm going to switch out and save this thing, because I actually, after rocks, I do live a Draco Meteor from a modest, Naganadel from this range, which is very, very nice. I didn't think he'd go for a Stone Edge, but you're going to see he actually makes a very aggressive play and does go for a Stone Edge. And good play by Gray for sure. But I'm not super worried about that in the sense that I can just go into my Zygarde and essentially seal up this endgame. The reason this does seal up the endgame is because he's locked in a Stone Edge right now. We know he's Choice Band. And I can just click 1,000 Arrows. I think he has to potentially just switch out hard into the Naganadel. And I think it is Scarf calling me DDing or coiling or something like that. Because right now he's a sitting duck in front of Zygarde, and that's never a good thing, in all honesty. And that's why I didn't think he'd Stone Edge. But I guess regardless, he was kind of put in a tough position anyways. Because if Ho-Oh got in for free, then he lost another Pokemon, and then the game was pretty much over. Because I could just Scorching Sands on the Naganadel and then just like roost off whatever I wanted to do. Or just Flamethrower again after that, so I don't have the Landorus in for free. But yeah, this is going to put me in a good position because now I can just 1,000 Arrows. He kind of has to go Naganadel, and then I can knock that thing out. And then from full, which I will be at after leftovers this turn, I will live a crit Adamant Choice Band Landorus Earthquake. So he is going to make the play into Naganadel. Again, he could have made the play of staying in, but even then, I just had to avoid a crit from the Draco Meteor with my Tyranitar, which again is pretty in my favor, and I figured this was just a better 50-50 to win right there. I think his best win comp was probably to go for the crits with Naganadel, but I didn't want to risk him going hard Naganadel and then throwing. That would be just a genuine throw by me, in all honesty. So I'm going to DD up here. I don't know his bulk. I don't know how much HP he has, and depending on how defensive he is, because I knew he's been, I didn't know his exact investment though, obviously. But I can DD up and I can guarantee kill right here, whereas if I didn't kill with arrows before, I would have just lost the game because I got 2-hit KO'd by Banded Earthquake, and that obviously wouldn't have been good. And yeah, I would have lost to the Landers there in the end game. So DD was my safest play because I could always live a crit and then win the game immediately afterwards. But yeah, GG's to Jack. Very, very fun one. Shouts to him for letting me use this footage as well. It was a very close one. The quadruple choice put me in such a tough spot. His team was so scary offensively, especially for an Ubers league where he doesn't have like a top tier Uber, like a Ho-Oh, like a Lugia, like a Rayquaza, like a Marshadow. He formulated a really scary offensive core, and it was on full display in this game for sure. Bandurus was really cool to see. I love seeing stuff like that. So again, GG's to him. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for putting up with me being late this week. Obviously, I'm legit going to edit this, finishing lunch, and then I'm going to the Giants game tonight. So it'll be up a little bit later, but it'll be up. Maybe you'll see me on the green on the green screen, on the big screen, you know, at the Giants game if you guys watch baseball. But thank you guys again for watching. Drop a like if you enjoyed, sub if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later. Oh, no, I can't find the thing.